Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Too Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Too Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Too Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actress Anna Lambe with me. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Anna, that I discovered that I'm keeping you up. It's like, 2 a.m. or something there.
Yeah, it's okay. As soon as this is over, I'm closing the laptop, straight onto bed. I'll be fine.
You seem more awake than I am, though. That doesn't seem fair.
It's the tea. The caffeine's got me high energy.
Your breakfast tea that you're drinking at night.
Breakfast tea. I'm young. I can do a little caffeine before bed and be fine tomorrow. Good.
If I had to pick a tea, Earl Grey would be my choice. I was a big Patrick Stewart fan when I was younger. Still am, but he drank Earl Grey on Star Trek. So I was like, okay, Earl Grey, I got to try that.
There's something in the Earl Grey.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And that gives him, the talent to do Star Trek.
I was thinking, well, if it's good enough for Patrick.
Maybe I'll move on to Earl Grey. And I used to do a lot of my dad, because I would drink tea at nighttime when I was a teenager. He started coming home with boxes of decaffeinated Earl Grey tea, so I could have my little 10:30 bedtime tea. So it does have a special place in my heart, Earl Grey. And now that Patrick Stewart drinks it, even more special.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad. So, okay, so let's start this way. Such a fan of yours. We love Three Pines, loving True Detective. But before we talk about all that, tell me a little bit about what got you into acting, because obviously not an easy profession to go into. What made you want to become an actress?
I mean, I never really did want to become an actress. That was it was a bit out of my scope of possibility. And, I grew up in a place called Nunavut. It's in, the Arctic region of Canada.
That sounds awesome when you say it.
Yeah, you get the full experience when I say it.
Say it, but say it slower so I can try to grasp it here.
So I'm from Iqaluit, Nunavut.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, there's no way I could say that, but that's beautiful.
No,
Does it have a meaning? What does that mean?
Iqaluit means, so the root word of Iqaluit is Iqaluq, which is a fish. So Iqaluit means the place of many fish.
I like that.
Yeah, so Inuktitut names and like places and stuff generally have like it defines kind of what that area is. So like Iqaluit, place of many fish, and that sort of thing. So I, even though it's the capital city of the territory with a whopping, when I was growing up, 7,000 people, um
Hey,
they're
that's
just
a big city for what I grew up in. I grew up in a city of like 500. So,
okay. All right, well, I'm a city gal
kind of.
then.
Yeah, yeah. You're a big city.
Yeah, I and Ecodate has it's fly in only. There's no roads that connect it with other communities.
Is that a cool thing or is that just a pain in the butt because it's hard to get somewhere?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, it makes for a very unique life experience
Yeah,
and, growing up and a strong community because people really need to lean into one another. But at the same time, access and opportunity is a major issue. So like we didn't have, I didn't have like a drama school or like a drama club
right.
that I could go to, but I did have my grade 10 drama class, which is where I was introduced to my first audition opportunity. There was a film shooting in my hometown called The Grizzlies, and they were auditioning people for a workshop. With the support of my drama teacher who really pushed me and said, Anna, I think you'll have fun, do it. I, auditioned for the workshop, did the workshop, had the option of auditioning for the movie. I was like, I'm 15. What do I have to lose? I'll audition for the movie. And ended up, uh, getting cast as Spring and shot over 6 weeks. Never really thought about acting again. Finished high school, went to university, studied, or I currently study international development and globalization. And then the Grizzlies came out 2.5 years later.
Yeah, and you were great in it. It's a good movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the Grizzlies ended up doing really well in Canada, and people enjoyed it, and it resonated, and that was really powerful. And one of the most important things for me has been, how can I give back to my community? How can I give back to the community that raised me? And what can I do to address some of the issues that we see in our communities, especially things like the housing crisis and food insecurity, the suicide epidemic, all of these things. And international development felt like a great way of doing that, but seeing the success of Grizzlies and the way that it resonated with people, and the way it kind of brought people together to talk about these issues, I realized that there was the power of storytelling and what arts and acting could do to help me do that work still, while also like fulfilling a creative need that I had. So after Grizzlies, I auditioned for a show called Trickster, which was
Right.
my first audition back in the game, and with Trickster. So it's kind of been history ever since. And I looked back and said I don't want to do this a couple times, but I keep doing it, and I'm very happy with where I've gotten.
Well, yeah, and you're so talented at it, especially considering the lack of experience. You basically just showed up and started working.
Yeah, it's the funny thing. So I have the acting coach from the Grizzlies was the first person I ever worked with, and I saw her again this year for a show that I'll be doing in the spring, and she was like, all your experience is just showing up on set and doing the work, and that's kind of crazy. I was like, well, when you put it that way, that makes me a little scared.
I think it just means you've got some natural ability. That doesn't mean you don't have to work at it, but you got some natural ability, so you're able to get in there and do some stuff. Where most of us, when we try to act, you can tell that we're trying to act, and you don't do that with you. It just looks natural.
Well, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely been like a massive learning curve, and I feel very grateful that my life experience has played into acting, especially with things like The Grizzlies and Trickster and Three Pines were all things that were very personal to me, and True Detective. So being able to pull so much from my own life and give that to a character has been a really beautiful experience.
Yeah. Well, and I love the fact that you're roles tend to have a little extra meaning. You know,
Mm.
they're a little bigger than what they look like at first, because you know a lot of that stuff's actually going on, you know, and it needs to be addressed. It needs to have a spotlight on it, and your roles are allowing some of that to happen, which is it's pretty awesome. A little intimidating, but that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at times it's a lot of there's definitely like a large sense of I have accountability to a community and to an experience that's so much larger than I am. I didn't feel it so much on Grizzlies because I was so young and I just was like, oh, we're doing a movie. It's fun. Obviously it was very personal and I was like, oh man, this is, you know, hitting really close to home. But on shoots like Three Pines, where, you know, you're talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women and playing, you know, a young missing mother, that was kind of it was a real like it was a real difficult one for me to shoot. I had just lost a friend a couple months before we started filming, and you know, all of that being so fresh, and still to this day, you know, the court case isn't settled yet, and hopefully there will be justice for her soon. But to do that shoot and to carry that personal experience with me while also, you know, trying to bring my best work, and knowing that this experience, the reality of missing and murdered Indigenous women, is so much larger than a story or, you
Right.
know, a plot. um it was definitely, you know, you kind of, at the end of the day, you sit in your trailer, you just kind of go like, you know, that's
Yeah, see,
it's
I get that, because it's you know, we have our own issues here in the States, but they're similar with our indigenous people. And it's kind of heartbreaking when
Mhm.
you really look at it. But like those shows, they kind of portray the issue as one of people are aware of it, don't necessarily care all the time with that. Is that actually what that, you know, the issue is? It like that actually, or is it exaggerated on screen? You know, is that an accurate portrayal of what things are like?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, you know, when we see on screen the way that, you know, the police and you know, communities will try and sweep under the rug the
Yeah.
violence against Indigenous women, the violence against Indigenous peoples, especially when it comes to like when we talk about like extractive industries and communities that are, you know, in within proximity of extractive industries, or man camps is what we often call them,
Yeah.
which is where we see a lot of violence against Indigenous women and women who get trafficked and go missing and are murdered. And that's something that we see a lot in like British Columbia with the Highway of Tears, which is like a notorious
Right.
highway where women have gone missing for decades. It there it feels so often, and it is true to life, how hard we have to fight to prove our humanity and to beg for dignity. It's definitely, I often think that um it's not as real in film and television as it is in real life. That work, that struggle, that constant push, and especially the timeline of how long it takes to get justice. You know, it doesn't happen within a year or 2 years. Sometimes it's a decade, and oftentimes the police will completely ignore the situations that are at hand, will ignore the deaths of women, or they will try and, like in Three Pines, where they're saying, you know, oh, these kids just ran off, and you know, they're probably gone partying and they'll be back. That is often the response. There's like this idea that Indigenous women especially are inherently vulnerable, and there's something about us that is like constantly at risk, so when we die or when we go missing, it's our own fault, and there's
Yeah,
no
sure.
reason for the police to go looking. So I think it's definitely oftentimes accurate, but sometimes it doesn't fully capture the weight and the effort and the concern that does exist within our communities, and how much we push in reality to bring this forward.
Yeah, it's actually that's a little sad that it's like that, and that it's actually, because it seems portrayed pretty badly, you know, as far as like it's a bad problem when the way
Mhm.
it's portrayed, and that's not portraying it as accurately as it could, that's kind of frightening.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
does it help that we're seeing a lot more projects that are starring Indigenous people, both in the States and in Canada as well? I mean, maybe that's a sign that things are starting to change a little bit. I mean, what do you think about that?
Definitely. I mean, as an Indigenous woman and as an Indigenous actress, I do get really like, even I've only been kind of in the industry actively for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
But in that short period of time, I have seen roles change so much from like early on in my career, it was like the young Indigenous mother that goes missing, or, the young Indigenous mother that's got beat up and is speaking to the cops and things. And now we're seeing a lot more like complex characters whose identity isn't necessarily rooted in trauma and whose storyline isn't necessarily rooted in some sort of like trauma or violence. And seeing shows like Reservation Dogs and Rutherford
Such a great
Falls, where
show.
we get like such a broader understanding of Indigenous identity and how our lived experiences aren't just trauma. I think it's definitely helping people understand Indigenous peoples not just as um, a, a community suffering from violence of the past, or also like Indigenous peoples only being of the past. I often think people think that we're like, like for me as like an Inuk woman, they think we live in igloos and, and we wear sealskin clothing and all that sort of
Have
stuff.
you ever worn sealskin clothing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, it is but it's modern now, you know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's right.
And for people to see like a modern representation, a contemporary representation of who we are, and that we've persevered and continued to have lives beyond colonialism, is really important. And I'm really excited for the future of Indigenous film and television. There's so many exciting projects coming out.
I know it's kind of great. I mean, we're in some ways in the best time,
Mhm.
right now, because we're getting exposed to so many great projects, and you could add in out of country, out
Mhm.
of Canada and the United States, which we've never really gotten exposed to before, but now we're getting all of these terrific shows from all over the world, and we're just
Mhm.
watching with subtitles, and everybody loves them.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many, great films and TV shows that exist out in the world, and to be able to have them at your fingertips with streaming these days is such a privilege. And to be able to like, without having, especially in this economy, without having to travel the world and to be exposed to new cultures through film and television is really it's a great time to be consuming media.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah, Reservation Dogs, terrific, absolutely terrific. But both seasons were wonderful, and really enjoyed that. Three Pines, I thought, did such a great job. True Detectives doing really well. Even Echo on
Mhm.
Disney, I thought, did a pretty good job with kind of portraying the history and some of that we're not always exposed to. So anytime I think we can especially go through the history of a people, it's got to
Mhm.
has to help us relate to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And just create like some more empathy for our communities and kind of see that humanity and that dignity. I love Echo, and I think what they've done is so incredible. And also that it was like one of Disney's like top streamed
Yeah.
shows is phenomenal, that people have so much interest in diverse stories, and speaking for me, like for Indigenous stories. It makes me feel like we're going to see more investment into these types of shows and movies going forward.
Yeah, and I think we will. We are lucky enough to have Irene Bedard on
Mhm.
the show. It's Pocahontas, right?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
Pocahontas. Oh my gosh.
she's amazing. But it was interesting to hear her viewpoint on how things have changed over time. Because she started acting back in the '80s, and just kind of seeing that over the decades and stuff. And she was very hopeful that things were improving, not just for indigenous people, but for all people, especially within TV and film, because we should all be on an even playing field. It should be talent based.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty great. And I wanted to go into Three Pines a little bit because it was such a weird role. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I remember right, it's based on a series of books, extremely popular. Louise Penny, I think, and they had really, I thought, a cool concept because it's like every 2 episodes was a book,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I thought, really neat. But they introduced your character by photograph, was how
Mm-hmm.
we kind of, if I remember right, that's how we met you in that show. Was that difficult, kind of playing that role where you weren't on camera, but you're there, you're central to the story, and eventually we kind of get some of the background and stuff and get it. But that I thought that was a little unusual for a role.
Yeah, it was definitely really interesting. I think it's interesting to play a character that exists within someone's imagination, and you
Right.
have to like go through all the different layers of like, do I play this as me or do I play this as their imagined version of me? And
Would you
is it,
choose?
yeah. So it was a lot of fun to kind of like go through it and talk about it. And I was like, am I scary? Am I helpful? Like what what is my purpose? But the directors of the show were really great and very open and receptive and collaborative.
Yeah.
So it was a very fun one. I had so many questions, but I would do it again in a heartbeat, that kind of
Well,
role.
I was really surprised they didn't give it a second season.
Yeah.
Those books there's like 18 books and they're so popular with that. And it was so well done. Alfred Molina was terrific in that. I was really surprised that it didn't get a larger, because it was such a good mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, and I mean, Louise Penny books are beloved, and people all across the world enjoy her books, and to be able to kind of weave the storytelling of like, this small community where weird things seem to happen all the time, plus have that platform for missing and murdered Indigenous women,
I love
was.
that because that wasn't in the books.
Mhm.
They added that in for the show, and I thought that was a terrific way to tie everything together.
Yeah, very much. I agree, and I really loved the inclusion of like Tantu Cardinals episode with the residential schools, and where Alfred Molina's character goes and
That
tries
was
to solve
powerful.
like the missing children, and it was so powerful. And that episode, I sobbed. I think it was episode 4. I remember sitting on my couch and sobbing for so long,
Really
just
watch.
because yeah, it's a hard watch, but so important.
Yeah.
um and I am a little bit disappointed and sad that it got canceled, but I think, as much as it's an exciting time for Indigenous film and projects that are getting greenlit, we're also seeing like these shows that tell important stories getting canceled after their first season. Three Pines was one, and Alaska Daily
Oh,
was another.
Alaska Daily. We loved you on Alaska Daily. That was such a
Thank
good
you.
show. That one surprised me too. I thought for sure they'd give it at least 2 seasons to just try to build that audience.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like it was Hillary Swank. I fully was like, they're gonna get a season 2. Like, there's no question about it. Yeah, it's important, and it's good and exciting and a hopeful time. But I'm also quite disappointed that once people are like, oh, we're not getting the views that we wanted because this is, a sad show with Native people in it, like pull the
Yeah,
plug.
that part I think is really um, disappointing. I guess
Yeah.
is the right word, because it was such a quality show. Not that there's not other shows that get canceled way too soon. There are, and part of that is because there's just so much good programming out there. But that was one it really did surprise me. I guess we got 3 or 4 books though out of the first season, which is more territory than you usually cover in a season.
Yeah, it was super ambitious, a
Yeah.
very ambitious show, and executed it really well. So, Three Pines forever close to
I
my
know.
heart.
I know. We had Sarah Booth, Julian Bailey
Mhm.
both came on the program, and they were so. just in love with the character and the show and just the whole vibe. I mean, it was I don't know if you remember a show called Northern Exposure from back in the 80s, but it had that vibe. It was just a very quirky town. Every single person was interesting, and then you had kind of this overlapping mystery that ran through the whole show. I just thought it was really well done, and you were so good with that. And I'm glad you brought up Alaska Daily, because that's one of my favorite newer shows. I started watching that last year. I assumed when I started watching it, because I assumed there'd be another season at least.
Yeah, I mean that cast also was just full of so many like great stars, and the plot was moving, and
loaded.
That one almost more than Three Pines surprised me that it got canceled.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because it was more tied to, I mean, I guess it was technically kind of a streamer, but it was tied to a network. And that you'd think a network show would make it's so weird. TV and film too has changed so much just in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
it's so different from, when I grew up, it was 3 channels. You just got the networks, and if you missed an episode of something, you were stuck until they showed reruns in the summer. There was no other way to catch it. It was just so different. Where now you've got access to so many more shows and movies, and you can watch them whenever you want.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there was like a massive like saturation of media from like 2012 to like 2020. Yeah. And now all of these networks are really trying to claw back and are focusing, more on just like the not necessarily like quality over quantity, even though I think there's a lot of great shows like Alaska Daily and Three Pines that are getting canceled. It does create some like feelings of instability as an actor, because I feel like once upon a time you used to get like a series, you would get cast in a series and it'd be like, all right, for the next 5 years I'm doing this.
Good for 5 to 7 years.
But now it's literally like you do a season and you're like, is this ever going to make it to a streamer? Are they actually going to like pick it up and share it, or is it going to get,
well, and it's like 6 to 13 episodes now instead of 22 to 26 like it used to be. It's much smaller seasons, which I don't have a real issue with that, because the quality is so good. As an actor, it's less, so your security is going to be less.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to do like stuff that you're really proud of, and that's fun, but definitely, yeah, the lack of security and that constant question of like, are we going to get canceled is a fear. I always say I'm a bit of a one season wonder, because I did Three Pines and then I did a show called Trickster that got canceled due to some other conflicts, and
Trickster was a good show.
I really love Trickster. Trickster was it was so different from everything else at the time in terms of Indigenous media, and it was fun to kind of be part of that beginning of the push to more like fun and less to do something that was out of the realm of just like life. It had some magic and surrealism and stuff, and legends and spirituality mixed into it. That was really fun. Definitely, as hard of a fall as Trickster had, very proud to have done that show, and it's still so near and dear to my heart.
I know you've like for the relatively newness of your career, you've had some big projects, like important projects, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been super, super lucky. I think I've done, some great series, and I feel really grateful that I've had quite like a linear projection of my career so far, where it just kind of keeps getting better and better and growing. And like to be part of True Detective, and how massive that this season has been, and how much people are loving
Jodie Foster. I mean, come on.
And working with Jodie Foster. Insane.
I mean, that's an icon there.
Yeah, I remember getting like the phone call that I had booked the role, and my manager was like, "Oh, and by the way, like you have a couple scenes with Jodie," and I was like, "Oh my."
Yeah, but you did great. That's I would be intimidated. because she's such a, kind of a legend as far as acting. And she's so, you can't tell she's acting. It's just like that's her character. That's her person. That would intimidate me, but I thought you did great.
No, Jodie's fantastic. I think she does a really incredible job of making everyone around her feel very comfortable.
Yeah.
And she's very, very kind and funny. And we had some chats beforehand before getting to filming. So like by the time you actually are in front of the camera, it's like, all right, cool. Let's
Yeah.
let's do our jobs and make something good. So I think Jodie really like set the tone for the show and how set would be and like how to conduct yourself on set. And that's so important for a lead on a series. And Jodie being the icon she is, she's an icon on and off screen. I will say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Although another character where your character's struggling a little bit.
Mm.
It's a rough role.
Yeah, where's my husband? Where is my husband?
Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, it's definitely it was. I always say I know so many Kaylas in my life, like women, Inuit women, Inupiaq women, um, who are holding it down for their families and like trying to kind of be that solid base. And to be able to portray that and to play that kind of character was really fun. I remember I approached it with a bit of like a softness, and I saw her as a lot more like sad and vulnerable. And
Yeah.
I remember Issa telling me, and she was like, no, like Kayla's strong, she's protecting her family, she knows what she wants. So like when you're doing this scene with Jodie, like you need to be firm, because you're not dealing with the shit anymore.
Yeah.
So to do that was great. And I think it's great representation that I think Indigenous women deserve, to have such like strong and vocal Indigenous women characters on the show. Like Kaylee Reese, obviously as Navarro, is incredible.
Unbelievable.
I'm watching her and I'm in awe, one, at how great of an actress she is, and two, how beautiful she is. She's just phenomenal.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. I love the jewelry with the cheeks. I
Yeah,
mean,
right?
it just fits her character so well. I love it.
Yeah, she's got such a great look, and the jewelry and everything, the tattoos,
Yeah.
and she's just so cool. And she's so like nobody else could play Navarro the way she plays Navarro. So I
Yeah, and the
love
story would not work without her.
Yes, totally great. I mean, what, and for this to be like her third acting job or something, it's in like her first five,
That's
is
crazy.
absolutely phenomenal to just be going toe to toe with Jodie Foster every single day. I mean, what an inspiration.
I mean, like watching it, would it surprise you that they had like a kind of a history, where they had some conflict and stuff? I mean, they do such a good job acting. You just believe it. You're like, oh yeah, those two don't get along.
Yeah, you see him off set and you're like, I
Oh
thought
yeah.
you don't like each other. I thought there was beef.
No, it's good. It's so weird though. I think we've got 3 episodes out now, and still trying to figure out what's going on. Four out now. Still
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's like the fun of this season, is there's so much happening and there's so many things that you're trying to like string together to understand the story. But I agree, Issa had given this bit of advice when the show was coming out and people were going, season or episode to episode, and complaining because they wanted it all released at the same time, which I understand. I love a good binge watch. I think that's
I do
very fun.
too. But I grew up with the weekly releases, and I like those too because you can dissect each episode.
Yeah, and you can come up with theories, and I love how it like connects people to come up with theories and to try and like pinpoint what's going on. But I think Issa said something really great, which was watch it week to week, and immerse yourself in the theories, have fun with it, and then once it's all out, binge it. And then you can kind of see the way things come together in the series, and it gives like a full viewer
I love that.
experience.
Had you watched the previous seasons?
I hadn't before I had gotten the job. I remember getting through the audition, and there was nothing. there's so much red tape around it. I didn't even have a character description. It just was like, she's an Inuk woman. Okay, we want her to audition. And we're just, send in her resume and her photo, and we'll see where she fits. So I had auditioned for a couple roles before getting Kayla. But yeah, they're just like, there was no plot, there was no character description. So I was like, I have no idea what is going
Well, it's
on.
such a strange show because there's like several years between each season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not really connected. It's more of an anthology, so you don't necessarily have to have a show every year. But it's just kind of strange the way that they've tailored that. But every season's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I
They're
think
all like excellent, and this one may be my favorite one so far, but it also could be just 'cause I'm watching it right now because it's so good.
yeah, I mean, it's such a departure from the other seasons. It's, and also like I feel like there's a lot of comparison on like, is season 4 going to be like season 1? And it doesn't feel fair to compare that way.
Agree. Yeah.
Especially when this season, it just has like a different, not necessarily a different purpose, but it's kind of going back on a lot of the issues in season 1, where we don't see women, and women are treated kind of as like, not pawns, but kind of pictures on the wall,
Well, yeah,
and
they're
they're there to
secondary.
look at, you
Yeah.
know? And so to have this season be like led and the story pushed by women, and to have them be sort of the forces behind everything, it's really powerful and really incredible. And I'm glad that you're really enjoying this season. Because it's, I think once you get to the end, circle back to me and let me
Oh
know
yeah,
what you
yeah.
think.
I'll have to let you know. I'll have to let you know what I think there at the end. I mean, it's kind of great that we're finally getting to the point that it's not as noticeable when you
Mhm,
don't have just your typical male lead running
mhm.
the show. You've got there's so many great actors out there, and you're getting so much diversity as far as your lead characters on shows. And I think it's great because you don't even notice. I mean, if it's good acting, it's good acting. You get invested in the character. It doesn't matter. But that hasn't always been the case. In the past, we just assumed, okay, there's our male lead, so we'll go from there. I think it's good that we're mixing that up a little bit because that's not how life is. You know,
Yeah,
in
you walk
life,
around.
it's you got all kinds of people that happen to be in the whatever at the head of whatever's going on. And it's unrealistic to think that everything out there that is being led is led by a man. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely. I think it's such like an like an important shift in film and TV, and there definitely is some pushback on it. And I will say, like, with this season, there's definitely been some pushback on it. But especially being like I'll speak for my own personal experience, being a young Indigenous woman actress in
Yeah.
this industry. I don't know like where else I would really be able to have like an opportunity to do a role on a show like this, had it not been written with diverse people and like a diverse storyline in mind, and to set it in a place that we don't often see, and to capture sort of the whole broadness of the experience and different life experiences and people, is so great. And yeah, I think it's great that people are being exposed more, and are slowly accepting the shift that's happening, because it's never going back.
Yeah, no, hopefully not. Hopefully, we're just going
Hopefully
to keep plowing
not.
ahead.
I will make sure of it. It is
Well,
never going
okay, yeah, and
back.
don't you think it's a good thing because we're now actually starting to use all of our people? You know,
Mhm,
why are we limiting ourselves? We're probably holding ourselves back from some great things because we don't want to share.
mhm.
Just give
Yeah,
everybody a chance.
yeah, give everybody a chance. I think, yeah, the diverse storytelling is really incredible, and I feel like it's broadened my perspective so much. It's made me like a more well-rounded human being, and I hope that for anybody else that consumes media, that and it just makes for a better society.
It really does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
100% does. You were great on Digstown as well. I wanted to mention
Oh,
that.
thank you. Did you watch Diggstown?
I did watch Digstown.
Oh, Nice. Yeah,
Yeah, I
Brandon.
like Dickstown.
Yeah, no, Diggstown's fun. It's a fun series. Sometimes
It,
Canada comes out with some real bangers.
that's right. Yeah, it doesn't. It seems to me that when I watched it, it was like a Facebook show. Does that sound right?
Interesting. A Facebook show. Tell me what you mean by a Facebook
Well,
show.
they've got a like Facebook had a little period where they did this thing called Facebook Watch where they were actually putting out programs.
Really?
Yeah, and for that one, it seems like that's when I first watched. Maybe not.
Mm.
It may have been on something, but it seems like that's where I watched it first was some type of Facebook platform, which is kind of strange. Or Meta,
Yeah,
is
interesting.
word.
Yeah. No, I'm
Oh,
surprised you watched
wherever I
Diggstown.
watched it, it was good.
Yeah, it is a great series, and the showrunner of that show is fantastic. And to be able to tell stories of like Black Canadians in Nova Scotia and that experience was really, really incredible. It was also really great. Brandon Oakes, who played my father in the series, was great. I adore him. He's such a fantastic actor,
He is a
and
good actor.
yeah, he's so great. And yeah, it was also one of the other times the first time Crystal Lightning played my mom, which was really
Yeah, I
fun.
was
And
going to ask you that because I saw that you've worked with her several times.
yeah, Trickster, Diggstown, Three Pines. Yeah, I always say she's like my industry auntie. She took me under her wing and she like introduced me to her agent, and now we have the same agent. I love that woman.
Man, she's a talented actress too.
Oh my gosh, is Crystal Lightning a talent? Have you seen her musical that she does with her husband called Bear Grease?
No, no, I hadn't. I didn't know she'd done one. I'm gonna write it
It's
down though.
so good. It's like an indigenous take on Greece. And they come up with the basis like of the original songs, but
Yeah.
they've basically indigenized them and tell this really cool story. I went in October and got to see her after, and it just was so much fun. I haven't had so much fun in a theater in so long. It's interactive. And it's also just so clever and smart, and yeah, it's super cool. If you ever get a chance to check it out, Bear
Yeah, I'll be
Grease.
looking for it now. Have you done theater in the past?
I I played Alice in Alice in Wonderland in my high school's play.
That's
That's
actually a
my
really good
theater
role.
experience.
You know, Alice in Wonderland for a high school play, that's not an easy role.
Yeah, it was so this was I was 16 at this point, and my drama teacher was so enthusiastic because Grizzlies had just rolled through town and people got to have like background experience, and it was a lot of fun. So she was like, let's put on a play. Let's do a play. And I was like,
That's smart on her part. Take
she's
advantage.
fantastic. Anytime I book something or something cool and exciting happens, I'll send her a message and I'll be like, Grace, I would not be here without you. I owe you so much.
Yeah, I love
Uh,
that. Do actors do that? Because I would be that way. Like
mhm.
I would totally be reaching out to teachers and mentors and all that as I went along with that. I think that's really cool. Keep up
I
the
think a lot too. I would say a lot too. A lot of actors I know are very like gracious and kind and really really loving people. You have to kind of have a little bit of a sensitive soul to do this
yeah.
kind of work. I mean, not always, but a lot of us do. So I know for like myself, I always reach out to like the teacher that helped me get my first audition and the women, the producers, the director of the first film that I did called Grizzlies. And you keep those relationships, and sometimes those relationships come full circle. The next show that I'll be doing is actually with the team that did Grizzlies, so
Is that the Netflix show? I
it
know
is the
you can't say much about it yet, and we're still working on a name, but you're the lead in it, and you're
yeah,
playing a mom.
yeah, it's been there, done that, played them
Yeah,
on.
yeah. That I mean that's yeah, that's true. But no, it sounds like a really good program, and I mean, I wanted to ask you, but I didn't think you'd be able to tell me too much. But is that more stress being where you're kind of the number one on the call sheet? Does that put extra stress on you? Do you feel like okay, I've got this younger actress that's going to be playing my daughter. I got to kind of keep an eye out for her because I'm the lead.
I mean, there is definitely like a level of stress. I think I feel really comforted by the fact that it's, producers that I've worked with and that I love and who are from my community and I've spent a lot of time with. So that level of like comfort and knowing that I can come to them with anything and
And
I'll be
it's a comedy, right?
it's a comedy. So that also like to lead a drama, I think would be a bit more scary. Even though drama is like my bread and butter. I love drama. And comedy is a bit terrifying because it's this whole I've never done comedy before. And it's this
Comedy's
whole
hard because it's kind of like music, there's a
hard.
rhythm to it.
There is a rhythm and also just trying to like work through what lands and what doesn't land.
Yeah.
And the fact that, if something doesn't land in, a take, you just have to keep going and get to the end and that moment of like it's exhausting where you're like, you deliver the joke and it doesn't land. And it's just like, I am the least funny person on earth right now, but I can't stop. I can't stop, the scene that I'm doing. So I am nervous, but I was very fortunate. They had brought me out to Toronto in January. They hosted a comedy workshop
Yeah.
so that we could get some, some actual like training before we head into the show to ease our minds and to kind of get the tone and the feeling of what the show will be. So it's really exciting. And, for it to be like the first big budget comedy filmed in the Arctic is kind of unbelievable.
It's crazy that you're going to be filming in the Arctic. Have you filmed yet? I should have asked.
No, we start soon, and that'll be really nice. I'll be filming in my hometown. I'll be living with my parents. My dad's so excited. He like texts me once a week and he's like so excited.
They are loving that. They get you home.
Yeah, they get me home for the first time in a while. So it'll be really nice. I have a whole community that trusts me and believes in me and that's, what else could you ask for?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Are we going to see that one this year, or is that still a little ways down the road?
I think it's still a ways down the road. I would say
got to film it, and then it's got to do all the post production stuff. It probably maybe next year before we see it.
Yeah, I'd say 2025 probably is when we'll see it. But
well, if you could tell them to speed that up a little bit,
I'll try my best. Listen, I want to see it as badly as anybody else after, reading the scripts and stuff. I am just like, it's my dream job. It literally is my dream job. And I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Have you got to meet any of the rest of the cast yet?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a good thing?
It's a good thing. Well, I adore the cast that we have so far, and everything else that will kind of fall into place in time is really, really exciting. I think it's going to be a really sick show. Thank you.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Well, Anna, thank you so much. This has been terrific. I'm such a fan of yours, and you're just getting started, which is exciting. Can't wait to see what you're going to do in the future. I guess we'll find out once they name this show, then we can really get excited about it.
Yeah, we can put a name to our excitement. No, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was such like a range of topics and so many tangents, but it was really great. Thank you.
We can do some tangents.
Love a tangent.
Yeah, me too. Good tangent. Nothing wrong with that. So before I let you go, and you have to come back.
I'll be back.
When that show gets ready to come out, you can come back and actually talk about it.
Yeah, I would love to. In a heartbeat. You reach out to me. You got me. Even if it's 9:30 p.m. in London.
I know. That's how much pull I have. I'm keeping people awake.
Yeah, I listen. If you wanted 11:30, I probably would still say yes. So
you are very kind. if someone reached out for me for 11:30, I'd be like, although I'll just tell this real quick before I let you go. I got to moderate for William Shatner. He came through town, and it was awesome. It was the best. But I was really just a prop. I just kind of feeding him questions, and then he talked for half an hour. Whatever. But it. Well, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
A late
Oh, the lateness. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we wrap up this show, and William Shatner's in his 90s.
Mm.
It's like midnight. And he ends the show. It's terrific, but it's like midnight. And after the show, he stays for like an hour and a half and signs autographs, takes pictures, all that. So then it's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, then he's driving 4 hours to the next show. And somebody wasn't driving him. He was driving but it was like a 4-hour drive. And he's driving it overnight. And I'm like, what? Who is this?
That's incredible. But is it safe?
I was just, yeah, that was kind of my thing. I was like, do I need to drive you?
I love the enthusiasm, man, but get some sleep.
He made, like, I was tired at the end, and I didn't have nearly what he had. And, he's 90 some years old, and and then still to have enough energy to drive somewhere overnight. And then I guess he sleeps a little bit during the day, but I don't know. Pretty impressive.
Well, props to him. I could take an 11:30 call. I don't know if I could do 2 a.m. 4-hour drive.
No. I know that I will not be podcasting at 90. I can tell you. maybe 80, maybe. But probably not. Probably like 70, I'm done.
Fair enough.
So last thing before I let you go, where can we find you on social media?
On social media, you can mostly find me on Instagram. My handle is Anna R B Lamb.
That's a lot of periods.
Periods. It's a long handle, but if you just search up Anna Lambe, I hope you'll find me.
Oh, it comes right up. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. That means you've made it.
I've made it. I got the blue check. I got the blue check organically. I've made it.
I know. I'm very jealous of the blue check. That's pretty awesome. Anna, thank you so much, and definitely let's plan to do this again. Maybe late in the year, or early next year when the new show comes out.
Absolutely, I will be back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, this has been great. Okay, hold on one second. The talented Anna Lambe. She's amazing on True Detective. So if you're not watching that, do yourself a favor. It's on Max right now. Sunday nights is when the episodes come out, and it's a good season. Probably my favorite so far. Although I love the first season, I thought it was really good. But this one's really really strong, and Anna does such a terrific job on it. So check that out. I would also recommend Three Pines. It got canceled after one season. It definitely shouldn't have. It is really well done. It's well acted. It's well written. It's based on Louise Penny's books. It's got Alfred Molina in it. It's really, really good. Anna's on that. We've had Sarah Booth and Julian Bailey that were on the show, have been on the podcast. Really, really good show. So definitely check that out. Keep your eye out for her comedy coming out on Netflix. Probably next year. Could be at the end of this year, but probably next year. We don't even have a name yet, but how impressive. She started acting at like 18 and is now the lead on a comedy coming out on Netflix. Just really, really impressive. So thank you guys for tuning in again this week. We definitely don't take you for granted. If you're finding us for the first time, we could definitely use your support. It's easy to do. It's free. If you're a watcher, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please just subscribe. Would really help us out. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really does help us out. If you're a listener, just wherever you listen to your podcast app, please subscribe there. Our website is meistercon.com. You can find today we put out episode 727. You can find all of those audio and video on the website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there. If we're doing anything on location, if we're going to cover a convention, if we're doing something in studio, anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. Really a big deal for a small town father and son podcast. There's 15 million or so podcasts out there to make a top 100 list. Pretty special. I think it has mostly to do with our guest list. I would put our guests up against anyone. I think we do an amazing job bringing on just terrific actors, musicians, directors, producers, anything in the entertainment business, writers. You know, we've been really blessed with the group that we've had on. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye everybody. Hi everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Too Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. You know, not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.